What surprised me at the beginning of your presentation is that how long you've been at the school. And maybe I'm speaking out of ignorance, but I sort of had a perception that like most principals kind of stick around for just a few years. I was curious what drives you to stay at Lakeshore and what excites you the most about being the principal there.
Yeah, great question. I was a teacher for 8 years at Clarendon at the Japanese bilingual program. So as a Japanese bilingual teacher, I taught in Japan before I lived in San Francisco. And as thrilled as I was with that community, after close to 10 years in the classroom, I started to feel like I wanted a bit more challenge. I felt like it was great to influence my 30 students, but I wanted to influence more. So I got into a graduate program through UC Berkeley that is very much based on creating more equitable outcomes for students in especially in urban public schools. And so that put me on a crash course with administration that I didn't really want. I wanted to stay a teacher, and I swore I would never be a principal, which is probably one of the things that makes me eminently qualified to be a principal. So yeah, I've always promised myself I wouldn't lose sight of what a teacher has to experience, what a child has to experience, and make sure that I bring that lens to really everything and every decision that we consider. Prior to, I worked at Hillcrest Elementary School as an instructional coach, and then also as the assistant principal for a few years. And then I was asked, made, told, thrown into to be a principal. My first principalship was not my choice. I was asked to be the principal of Dr. William Cobb Elementary School in the Fillmore, and I really found it to be dynamic, fun, no day like the last day, and every day a new challenge. I was there for 4 years, and then I came to Lakeshore as an opportunity I worked at a very high performing elementary school, Clarendon. I worked at a school in the Fillmore that had very high needs, and that's what I love about Lakeshore is it's everybody under the same roof. I took the superintendent around for a tour a couple of years ago, and he said, I want every kid in San Francisco to experience this. I want every kid in San Francisco to be in a school where the demographics more closely resemble that of the city than anywhere else. And at a time when our neighborhoods and our schools are becoming a lot more segregated and gentrified, Lakeshore is very real. There's a lot of families who are in all sorts of circumstances, from families who've owned their own homes for generations, to families who are renting, to families who are living in public housing, families who are navigating urban homelessness. And we have all of those in relatively large numbers. We have families from every corner of San Francisco, with the exception of Treasure Island. We even have a family that comes from Chinatown. And so that part has been really exciting. It's our legacy of serving students from all over San Francisco. I think that makes it a really fun place. And I don't want my boss's job. I really, a part of what keeps me working at a school site is the joy that you have in working with kids and being out in the yard and playing kickball and having relationships that, to me, standing around with adults in suits isn't going to provide.
Dara's maybe been here the longest and seen the most staff come and go. And I know there was a period in there where there was a little bit more turnover. But in the recent years, I feel like it's just been like 2 to 3 teachers, classroom teachers, either retiring because they've served for decades, or moving to another country or something like that. And so it makes it, at least from a parent's perspective, seem like the turnover is pretty low and staff satisfaction is pretty high, which is great for our kids.
I actually came last week with my now 9th grader back to visit, and most of her teachers are still at Lakeshore that she had for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, Miss Jones retired in 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all still at Lakeshore. So it was really great for her to go back and be able to see her teachers. We have a lot of new teachers that have started the last few years, but they are so energetic and enthusiastic and amazing that it's really a good mix. I think of experienced teachers that have been there 20 some years and newer teachers that are really energetic and are able to work in partnership grade by grade. So it's been that's something else we love about Lakeshore. I didn't mention it, but we love our teachers.